Howdy, everybody. Thanks for joining me again. As always, your time is precious, and I appreciate it very much. Ninth, the 9th of June. 9 videos in, 9 days in. A little late on this one, Just grateful I got it going and got it out to you. It's a good one. It's going to lead down many, many roads, and it's going to tie in with Anomalous America, episode 12, Mississippi, in a big, big way. And it correlates with a lot of other episodes. They all kind of overlap, but this one, since I'm going to use these videos to step outside the bounds of America and touch on some fascinating newspaper reports that don't, you know, that aren't going to get covered in Anomalous America. So yeah, this is a good one. Let's jump right in, huh? Again, thanks for being here. Appreciate all of you. Hope you're loving the content. Let me know in the comments. It's going to pop right out to you, as it already says right there. The Great Wall of America, 1932. Da-da-da-da-da-da. All right. Da-da-da-da-da. Can I just move this over? Yeah, there we go. All righty. Explorers flying over Peru discover a mighty fortification resembling the Great Wall of China. And scientists say it was erected by a long extinct Chimu Indians of South America. The Great Wall of China, winding like a mighty protecting serpent along the old northern boundary of the Celestial Kingdom. Hadrian's Wall, the Great Wall of Britain, built and fortified to shut out the barbarians of the north, cut of southern Britain in the days of the Roman Empire. And now, added to this small select list of great walls in the world, is an American entry, the Great Wall of Peru, which has been discovered by explorers flying over the Andes. Let's get a little closer where I'm at here, huh? The American Wall was built with hard labor by an Indian people called the Chimu, who had an important civilization long ago on the Pacific coast of Peru. Chimu, think about it. Until finally they were swallowed up in a terrific struggle by the powerful empire of the Incas. That a great wall many miles long should be hidden or lost or forgotten seems incredible. A great wall would seem to be as conspicuous as the proverbial white elephant. But the great walls of China and Britain have had a way of fading out of sight for many centuries and coming to light again in modern times. The newfound wall of Peru is just like them. How very, very inconspicuous a great wall can be was proved by the Chinese wall, which was unknown outside of Asia for almost 2,000 years. And it is 1,500 miles long. That is half the width of the United States. As late as 50 years ago, articles were actually written arguing that the Chinese wall was a myth. In England, archaeologists are still discovering Hadrian's Wall, which runs clear across the island from east to west for 73 miles. Only last year, a brand new fort along the wall was unearthed with much excitement. We'll get into this wall further in the channel's life, but this is an echoing sentiment. Okay, the fort was buried, so was the wall. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? As for the Great Wall of Peru, it has just gained the world's attention for the first time. It was sighted from the air unexpectedly as the recent Shippy Johnson Peruvian expedition flew over the foothills of the Andes. Never having heard of any barricade of such size in Peru, the surprised explorers, Robert Shippey and George R. Johnson, and their party, studied their air photographs and puzzled over them, and finally decided to make another flight to trace the length of the mysterious barricade. This time, the flying explorers started from the point near the Pacific coast where the ruins of a village lie buried in sand. We'll get into Peru some more as well. try to keep it somewhat lined up, but we'll see. There, the Great Walls spring up, another buried city under sand. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? The whole Pacific coast of Peru is a desert strip of sand about 50 miles wide, cut across by a number of rivers which make the land habitable. East of that desert strip, the ranges of the Andes begin. The Great Wall crosses the strip and rises into the foothills. It was apparently built to follow the Santa River from sea to mountain. In many places, the barricade wanders more than a mile from the river. Occasionally, it comes close, even crossing the river's path. Like the Chinese Wall and the Wall of Hadrian, the Great Wall of Peru was strengthened by a series of forts. The discoverers cited 14 of these forts. They stood on both sides of the wall and at a short distance from it. Some of the forts are circular, some are rectangular. Most of them were cleverly set in the tops of small hills, where they would be quite visible from the valley floor. As the flyers followed the wall up into the Andes, at an elevation of 10,000 feet in the mountains, they lost the trail. Weather conditions were against them, the light was failing. But they had succeeded in following the wall for more than 40 miles. They had seen enough to convince them that this construction project of ancient American ranks with remarkable feats of the past. Viewed from an airplane over the Andes, the Great Wall of Peru is a seam, a long, fine scar on the face of the mountains. After the flyers had surveyed it from the air, they set out in an automobile and on foot to examine the wall at close range. They found a tall, crumbling rampart of mud cemented boulders. Where it crossed gullies, it rises as high as 20 or 30 feet. The average height appears to have been 12 to 15 feet, and the base, it was about 12 to 15 feet thick, and toward the top it tapered. It is interesting to compare this wall with the other two previously mentioned. The Great Wall of China, built about 200 BC, is 1,500 miles long, has 25,000 towers for forts, rises from 15 to 30 feet high, and is 25 feet thick at its base. Hadrian's Wall in England was built around 150 AD, is 73 miles long, has 14 large forts and 80 small ones, stands nearly 20 feet high, and is 8 feet thick. The Great Wall of America is known to be between Chimu warriors and some opponents. Such a scene gives a pretty good idea of what Indian fighting must have been like along the Great Wall of Peru in those days, when it was a fortification in active use. In the series of duels painted on this vase, the best dressed contestant, the Chimu warrior, is winning every time. And I think I jumped out of place there. Tapered. The Great Wall of America is known to be 40 miles long and maybe longer. May have been built as early as 300 AD. Has an average height equal to that of the Chinese Wall. Is strengthened by 14 forts and is from 12 to 15 feet thick. Now that the Great Wall has been revealed by aerial photography, there is a real surprise that so big a monument was never mentioned in early historical writings about Peru. The Spanish conquerors, who were so curious about all the wonders of the Incan Empire in Peru, seem to have heard nothing about a great wall. At least they never wrote of it. The Spaniards exclaimed over the long, smooth highways built by the Incas for their armies to march over. They marveled to see Incan temples built of stone and shining in gold and jeweled ornaments. They took the keenest interest in the intricate communist system of the Incan government. And chroniclers who accompanied Pizarro busily wrote down impressions about these things. Was the Great Wall already in ruin? Forgotten when the Spaniards conquered the Incas in the 16th century? Well, like we already covered in Texas and the American Southwest, the Cyclopean gigantic construction lies buried far below the surface. And considering the city that this wall was attached to was completely buried in sand, I, I would I would reason that only a fraction of this wall was actually protruding from the earth, and the majority of it had been buried. Think back to our Texas episode of Anomalous America with the Rock Wall. Now, this rock wall wasn't just in Rockwall, Texas. It was found all over Texas. And when we get into Mississippi, we're going to find another Great Wall. That's why I chose to do this one now. Where was I? For silence. A number of archaeologists have been asked their opinions on the Great Wall. Was the Great Wall? Yes. Okay. Sorry. My apologies. That might account for silence of history on the subject, right? It was already in ruins. I bet you anything. A number of archaeologists have been asked their opinions. The whole narrative with the Great Wall of China, it's obvious that we're dealing with some kind of cataclysm and reset. A construction like that had stood for so long and obviously showed very, 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 being very, very ancient for it to be, up into, the late 1800s considered to be a myth is very much a nod to some crazy event wiping out just about everybody in that area, if not the world. A number of archaeologists have been asked their opinions on the Great Wall of the Great Wall by the American Geographical Society, and there is a virtual agreement on one point that it is the builders of the Great Wall of Peru were the Chimu Indians. They were living in the region when the Great Wall must have been built, for they occupy the coast from very early centuries of the Christian era. There is a famous Chimu vase painting which shows a whole row of hand-to-hand combats between Chimu warriors and other opponents. Such a scene gives a pretty good idea of what Indian fighting must have been like along the Great Wall of Peru in those days, when it was a fortification in active use. In the series of duels painted on this vase, the best dressed contestant, the Chimu warrior, is winning every time. And that is no wonder, for the winners are protected about the head by pointed helmets. Now, listen to this part really carefully, okay? The winners are protected about the head by pointed helmets of wood and cotton with chin straps and ear plates. Now, how do they know they're wood? I very much doubt they're wood. And a flap down the back of the neck. These warriors wear armor jackets, probably made of slats of wood, laced together, and they are loaded down with shields, battle axes, wicked looking maces, and other accessories for close combat. War paint on the face and legs completes the fighting outfit. Some of the enemy in this fight have helmets to wear, but most of them have only tasseled caps to save their heads from bludgeon blows and have little or no body protection. From what is known of the Chimu Indians, a great wall would have come in handy at almost any period of their busy career. When the Chimu were a young and rising tribe in the north coast of Peru, they were engaged in fighting civil wars among their own neighbors. Later, the Chimu had to defend themselves against Indian tribes from the highlands of Peru. And then, somewhere between 1000 AD and 1300 AD, the Chimu had to fight the conquering Incas, who finally added Chimu land to their kingdoms. Experts on Peruvian archaeology differ in their views as to which age of Chimu fighting brought the Great Wall into existence. Dr. Ari Olson of the University of California suggests that the Great Wall may have been a defensive structure built by the early Chimu as they extended their territory to north and south. Their barracks to which they had been driven by the conquering forces of the Sultan. The remainder, approximately 20,000, were banished from Turkey. Okay, my apologies. It from north and south. Okay, that's where it ended. That's another article. Anyways, so I apologize. I skipped ahead there. Um, so yeah, very much sounds like they're wearing knight's armor. When you look at the comparisons between wood and metal armor, it's very easy to distinguish. So the fact that they're just assuming that it's wood is kind of telltale. Here, one of the most important parts of this article is this vase. a likeness of one of the prehistoric Indians who built the Great Wall of America, a Chimu Indian, as portrayed in a carving on a Chimu vase. Okay, you look at Chimu vases of today, you'll never see this. You will not find this. This is an incredibly close representation to what the Olmecs wore um, in their sacred kind of priestly helms. And the mushroom cap helm is kind of a dead giveaway to that. And the Olmecs worshiped the mushroom, and they would consume the mushrooms and go on long traveling expeditions to plan their next city. And they said that they could see the great serpent in the earth, and they would follow it to where the serpents crossed, and that is where they would build their cities. This very, very interesting lore that could take an entire 2 hours to cover. But the Chimu Indians, the Great Wall of America in Peru, very similar construction to China and the walls of America, very similar. And yeah, Chimu Indians, right? Very dark complexion, large, broad nose, big lips. Not quite what we're told. Okay, who were these Chimu Indians? Now we're going to swap over to a book real quick here. Pretty interesting book. I've covered some years ago, but we'll just give a little bit of an introductory here and show some more correlations. The Chimu, okay, they came from where? Hmm. So I'll just read the introduction and then we'll skip ahead a little bit, cover some of the interesting relations here. Um, their construction methods look very much like Peking and very much like Tenochtitlan. And we're going to connect some dots between these two people. Now, there was a Chinese, quote, Chinese Mengu, king of the Chinese, one of relation to Kublai. And then there was Mango, right? Very interesting correlations. There's a lot of um, many authors over the last 300 years have tried to make comparisons between the the kings of the Peruvians, the Incas, with the Chinese, and I think these Chimu Indians are a very very important link that is you can't find much material on them. The Chimu Empire was one of the largest pre-Hispanic New World states, dominating much of the north coast of Peru circa AD 900 to 1470, when conquered by the rival Inca Empire. The Chimu capital, Chan Chan, was established between AD 900 and 1000 on a flat plain near the Pacific coast. Here's a kind of a background of their story. History of Trujillo contains a brief account of Chimu origins. A foreign noble named Te Kanamo arrived in the Mochi Valley, disembarking from a balsa long raft, like those from far northern Peru, and came claiming to be sent by a great lord from across the sea. Great lord from across the sea. For a year, he remained sequestered in his house, practicing rituals and learning the local language, gaining prestige and respect. Tai Kanamo was given local women for wives, became entitled Chimor Kapak. Chimor Tai Kanamo. Okay, we have some interesting Japanese and Chinese verbiage here. Very much the phonetics here correlate a lot. You've heard me talk a lot about the relation between the early um, ancient Chinese language and the foundations of Mexico and how they are very, very similar. His son succeeded to the throne and consolidated control over Lower Mochi Valley, while Tai Kanamo's grandson conquered the Upper Valley and expanded the kingdom south to Santa Valley and north to Zana Valley. So, yep, we can kind of skip ahead from there. Chanshan patterns of an urban society. The capital of Chimu, Chanshan, dominated the Chimu heartland in every imaginable dimension. It was by far the largest Chimu site, with a maximum extent of 20 kilometers and a densely occupied urban core covering 6 kilometers. It was the most populous settlement with an estimated 30,000 to 40,000 inhabitants, dwarfing any other known Chimu settlement in Moji Valley. Chanshan was a major metropole, the center of which labor and resources flowed, and this is reflected by extensive storerooms and concentration of crop production and diversion of agricultural produce to non-farming urban populace. Four major classes of architecture characterize Shanshan's environment. One, vast, walled royal compounds or palaces called citadels. Smaller, abode walled elite compounds. Commoner residence, known as siar or small, regular, agglutinated rooms. And four, large mounds. Skipping ahead some more. You can just look at these images. I don't have any comparisons available, but if you look at the celestial city or Peking, other cities in China, they look identical to this. It's pretty amazing, the correlations here. Remember, their first king of the Chimu came from across the ocean, right? And you can see again, um, you saw the vase, very defined black features, similar to the Olmecs. Different, but similar. And the language and phonetics are all really important to keep track of too as we go farther along here. Enclosed extensive storerooms. Yeah, so I want to go to their. Look at these titles here. Okay, look at these names: Tukume, Farfan, Chanshan, Manchan. Okay, you know, again, the Manchurian, Manchu, Tartars, and the connections with Kublai and the Manchu, mm, and finding some of their languages in the Gulf states, Tenochtitlan, Tiwanaku, making more interesting correlations here between this state and you'll see as we get farther into a Mississippi, even we're going to find a very similar construction pattern. So you can see here, pretty interesting compounds, very advanced construction. And I wanted to talk about their mythology here to finish off this video. Huge mounds, complexes around the mountain. They worship fire. Go figure. Cosmogonic charter for class divisions. This is a quote from Antonio Calancha, 1977. It was said that these Indians of the flatlands and seacoasts were certain that their initial masses and founding fathers were not Adam and Eve, but four stars, that two gave birth to the kings, lords, and nobles, and the other two to the commoners, the poor, and the indentured, which, as the faith we profess makes precise, are the chances of this earth, and not because it is thought that the rich and powerful are descendants of other beings, than are the humble and poor, but they see the poor as not as naturally equal, but as least valued of fortune. That's what I got. This is a Hansel toy. One sec. So yeah, open your gift while I finish talking here really quick. We're going to fast forward here and we're going to talk about their religion. Specific concepts of class and hierarchy in the North Coast continually are reflected in Chimu's sacred iconography. Four principal deities. Oh, you need me to get the tabs? Yeah, let me get the tabs and I'll keep talking here, okay? Well, what do we got here, folks? We got little live pets. Okay, little live pets. We got tons of pets, but he wants little live pets toy. All right, where was I? Four principal deities crown the Chimu pantheon. The staff god, a deity with a plumed headdress. Think about that, you guys. Okay, plumed headdress, staff god. Okay, and for the sake of wrapping this up here, we're going to cross-platform this real quick. We're going to go to a post of mine from a long time ago. Okay, this is from Tiwanaku. The staff god, gateway of the sun. Again, sun worship, fire worship. I know, bud. Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. It is moving. These stiff rectangular figures appear at Tiwanaku in Bolivia and throughout Peru. They also appear all throughout the Gulf of Mexico. They are attributed to the Chavin style of architectic expression. Yeah, how was baseball, bud? Oh, you just burping? Well, that's really good burps. Where was I? Okay, well, we bumped something there. What happened? We bumped. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Thank you for your patience. And loud noises in the background here. And I'm just hitting all kinds of keys. Okay, so their style also echoes the stiff Atlanteans figured of Tula in the Valley of Mexico and Chichen Itza in the Yucatan. They need to portray figures holding upright the sky was a repeated motif in ancient art. The only explanation for it is they knew the sky sometimes fell on them. The staff god is invariably depicted with tears beneath his eyes. According to Quiche myth, he is weeping for the sunken red land. Atlantis is often referred to as the Red Land. So yeah, lots of correlations here. Mexico, Atlantis, Olmecs, and we're going to draw this into Anomalous America, episode 12, Mississippi. More great walls to come. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a wonderful day.